Hey guys, welcome to the channel. The channel is called Memory Lane. My name is Source of Food. And if you're happening on the channel for the first time, this is where we talk about childhood memories, all right? Memories going back to the early 60s, coming back into the 70s, and maybe touching into the 80s somewhat. This is where I sit and reminisce about the good old days and, sometimes the not so good old days. Anyway, today I want to talk about some of the little things that we had to endure or we had to cope with growing up in a tropical country, Jamaica, where I was born. So I can recall, just looking back to the early 60s, that period when I was born, things were really tough, right? Just finding enough food to eat on a daily basis was a challenge. I grew up with my grandma, and she was like the breadwinner of the home after the age of 10, right? Because my granddad passed away when I was 10, okay? I grew up with my grandparents. Now, growing up in a tropical country, it is not uncommon for you to be familiar with a lot of animal species, from a wide variety of birds to insects, to mammals, reptiles, amphibians, whatever it is, right? And you just had to cope with them in whatever way you can. Now, the good thing about Jamaica was the fact that I shouldn't say is the fact that we don't have a lot of animals that are dangerous, right? We don't have like snakes and, poisonous snakes and all of those kind of stuff. We don't have animals that want to kill you, so to speak. So that was the good part about growing up in Jamaica. Now, looking back, to some of the stuff we had to endure, for example, it's a tropical country, so there's a lot of ants going around, different kind of ants, different variety of ants. You have duck ants, you have red ants, you had black ants, you had sugar ants. Well, we call that sugar ants. You had one called pepper ants. We call it pretty me little, all kind of ants. But some of the most, pesky kind of ants was the little one that we call sugar ants, right? And to a lesser extent, another one called, we just call it black ants. And they were pesky because they're all over the place. But more so because they are attracted to sugar. Anything that was sweet, they're attracted to it. And, as a kid growing up, we never had proper storage to, when my grandmother, bought stuff, for example, sugar and other stuff. We never had, the proper storage, to store some of these things. So some of these things were at the mercy of these pesky little insects or whatever. So, can you imagine, your grandma or your parents send you to the shop to buy a pound of sugar. Back home it was basically brown sugar we had, right? A pound of sugar or 2 pounds of sugar, whatever, she could afford. And then you put the sugar away, and if the sugar was not in a tight a container with a tight lid, then you might go back and that sugar is full of ants, to the point sometimes where we had to throw it out, but sometimes we never had a choice but to continue using it. So there have been instances where we never had, for example, a tight metal container with a lid to put it in, or a bottle with a cap to pour the sugar in, and the sugar would just be left in the paper bag that we brought it, that you brought it from the shop, that, the shopkeeper measured it and weighed it in that brown paper bag, and it was left there. And you wake up in the morning, make some tea, and when you scoop out the first spoonful of sugar and put it in your cup and pour the water over it, right? Pour the hot water over it. All you're seeing is ants floating on the top of your tea. And don't get me wrong, when I say tea, when I use the word tea is used loosely, right? We called everything, that every hot beverage that we have in the morning, we call that tea, right? So I'm not talking about, for example, the brand name tea that you find in the supermarket. If it's fever grass, it's tea. If it's lime leaf, it's tea. If it's peppermint, it's tea. If it's Milo, it's tea. If it's Ovaltine, it's tea, right? If it's coffee, we call it tea. So tea is used lightly. Sometimes it was just the last bit of sugar we had to to make tea that morning, or to make some lemonade or whatever it was, and you pour it out into the glass, the sugar into the glass or the cup, and you pour the water into it, whether it be hot water for tea or water for lemonade, and all you're seeing is just ants floating on top of it. Oh my goodness! And you are thirsty, and you need to have that tea. Now, what do you think we're going to do? What do you think we did? What do you think we did? We can't throw it out. We just couldn't throw it out, right? I mean, sugar was at a premium, right? We were poor. We couldn't throw it out. So many times we just had to take this spoon and skim off the ants from the top of your whatever you're drinking. Make sure you get everyone out, and you would enjoy your tea or your lemonade, whatever it was. That was life. That was life growing up in the 60s and 70s. That was life, being a kid who grew up in poverty or in humble beginnings. That was what life was like. Nothing went to waste unless the sugar was so contaminated, like with ants, like 1,000 ants in it. Then maybe you never had much of a choice but to throw it out. But in the big scheme of things, we never threw it out. We never threw it out. We just skim off the ants. Just skim it off, and yeah, we enjoy with tea, and we enjoy our lemonade, and that was it. So perhaps you can relate to something like that. Perhaps you have had similar experiences. I want to hear about it. So leave a comment in the comment section below, and if you like these kind of videos, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button if you enjoy this video. And until we talk again, take care of yourself. Source of Food here. More time. All right?